On the 20th of January 2025, we celebrated Founders' Day with a special assembly. This marked the end of our 150th birthday celebrations and the beginning of Manchester High's 151st year at the forefront of girls' education. During the past year, we have remembered our past, celebrated our present, and imagined the future that lies before us in lots of different ways. We've been reminded of the importance of our history as a pioneering girls' school, because the past has made us what we are today. Secondly, in our celebrations, we have highlighted the importance of community. Our alumni inspire us all and ensure that our heritage lives on. Thirdly, we have highlighted the importance of looking to the future and being prepared to adapt to meet the challenges of the times. To mark Founders' Day 2025, we unveiled the last 3 elements of our 150th birthday celebrations, all of which remind us of our past and also connect with our present and our future. Before we talk about the first, we would like to remind you of a stunning piece of artwork which hangs in reception. It's a copy of a photo mosaic entitled Women Like You by the artist Charlotte Newson. At first sight, you may simply see it as a portrait of the famous suffragette Emmeline Pankhurst, whose 3 daughters, Christabel, Sylvia and Adela, were all pupils at Manchester High in the 1890s, before joining their mother in campaigning for women's right to vote. But if you look closely at the portrait, you will see that it is made up of thousands of small images. The portrait is entitled Women Like You. It's a celebration not only of Emmeline Pankhurst and the suffrage movement, but also the extraordinary lives of ordinary women, past and present. Charlotte asked people to send in photographs of women who had inspired them. Thousands sent in photos, and from this Charlotte created her extraordinary portrait. What is really special about it is not only that it is a stunning image in itself, it's also the fact that each photo tells the story of a woman who has inspired others. There are pictures of inspirational famous people, like for example Mother Teresa. But there are also ordinary women, mothers, sisters, aunts, friends, all of whom have had a powerful influence on the lives of others for all sorts of reasons. The portrait took Charlotte 2 years to complete. It's regarded as one of the most iconic images of Emmeline Pankhurst today. We were thrilled when the actual portrait was exhibited in school in 2012, and that's why we obtained a copy to display in reception as a permanent reminder of our links with the Pankhurst family, and also because the portrait emphasises that we can all make a difference and have a positive impact on others. So, when we were thinking of a permanent commemoration of our 150th birthday, we thought that it would be a wonderful idea to ask Charlotte to design a new photo mosaic for school in the shape of our ivy leaf symbol. It contains images from the past. You will see photos sent in by former pupils, former members of staff and other members of the Manchester High community. Some photos come from the school archive. But there are also pictures of the Manchester High pupils and staff now. So it's a brilliant representation of our past, our present and our future. This unique artwork is now a very special part of school's heritage. It hangs on the wall in top reception. And it reminds us that we can go on to inspire other people in many ways, big and small, just like the women who appear in the Emmeline Pankhurst portrait, Women Like You. And now to the second item that was unveiled at Founders' Day. It's not by a celebrated artist, but it has been in the Manchester High family since 1928, so almost 100 years. This tapestry was a gift to the school by Sarah Burstall, our second headmistress from 1898 to 1924. She made the tapestry herself after her retirement. We have descriptions of her progress on the tapestry in the school magazine of December 1927. She says that it's a really difficult piece, a peacock on a balustrade with flowers in the background. She added that it would take a year to complete, as she could only work on it in daylight, and then not for very long, as her eyesight was failing. If you look carefully, you will find ivy leaves in the background. It must have been a real labour of love. The school magazine of December 1928 reports that many affectionate thoughts went into the making, along with the 126,000 stitches. Miss Burstall gave the tapestry to school in 1928. It's quite remarkable that the tapestry survived the move from the school's second home in Dover Street and then the bombing of the school in Grangethorpe Road in 1940. We catch glimpses of it in archive photographs in different places. The library in Dover Street, the library in Grangethorpe Road, the headmistress's study and the staff room. Then it vanished, and no one knew where it was until it was found in 2022 in the back of the damp cellar in a very sorry state. It was very dirty and the frame was broken. We felt that something should be done to conserve it in her memory. In addition to her work as headmistress, Sarah Burstall was the author of many books on education, and she even travelled as far as the United States and Canada in search of new ideas. She made Manchester High famous as a pioneering school. But what is the link with the Charlotte Newson collage? What you may not know is that, like Emmeline Pankhurst, Sarah Burstall was a strong believer in votes for women. However, as headmistress, she realised that she could not set an example of breaking the law, as the suffragettes did. In her autobiography, Retrospect and Prospect, she explained, "Personally, I had been born a suffragist, for my parents both believed in votes for women, but I had never felt able to do anything of a public character." She knew that this would be unwise, as girls' schools were relatively new, and she couldn't do anything that would turn public opinion against them. Nevertheless, she and her fellow headmistresses did what they could. At the Headmistresses' Conference, held at Manchester High School in 1908, a resolution for women's right to vote was carried by a large majority. The Association of Headmistresses, assembled in conference at Manchester, desires to place on record its strong conviction that the grant of the parliamentary franchise to women is both just and expedient. Miss Burstall wrote later, "It's difficult today for women to realise what a bold step this was. Perhaps there was something in the air of Manchester, which had always led in the suffrage movement, that encouraged the members of the conference." Then, in July 1913, Sarah Burstall and some of her staff, all wearing academic gowns, took part in a march from Manchester to Stockport, part of the nationwide pilgrimage converging on London, to show support for votes for women. Miss Burstall felt that it would be correct for her to go on the pilgrimage, especially as her age entitled her to a seat on a lorry. She recalled, "Crowds watched us, sometimes with hootings, but as we came into Stockport there were showers of stones, fortunately small, from a crowd of women. No one took any harm, but the incident is perhaps worth recording. So when we look at the tapestry made by Sarah Burstall, we need to remember that she too was an inspirational woman. Not only was she a passionate believer in girls' education, she, like Emmeline Pankhurst, was also a strong believer in women's right to vote. It was entirely appropriate, therefore, that the conservation work should be done at the People's History Museum in Manchester. We were delighted that her great-great-niece, who herself was a pupil at Manchester High, was with us to unveil the tapestry, which now hangs on top reception. When the school was 25 years old, in 1899, Sarah Burstall knew that Manchester High, the first academic day school for girls in Manchester, had been a resounding success. Hundreds of girls had gone on to study at university, and education for girls was here to stay. She decided that it was time to celebrate the courageous men and women of Manchester who had taken that first bold step to found Manchester High. So, the first Founders' Day was held in 1899 to remember them, and every year since then we have done the same. One of our Founders' Day's traditions is that we read out the names of the founders and remember all the Manchester citizens who contributed money to set up the school.
Manchester High School for Girls is indebted for its foundation, not to a single benefactor nor to a great teacher, but to the spirit of the times. It was the creation of a body of Manchester citizens, all of whom were convinced of the value of educating girls, and who wished to provide for Manchester's daughters what has been provided without stint for Manchester's sons. We remember William James Kennedy, Benjamin Morgan Cowie, Matilda Mary Roby, Abigail Behrens, Harriet Ann Derbyshire, Augustus Samuel Wilkins, Robert Duncanfield Derbyshire, Margaret Emily Gaskell, Edward Donner, and others, our founders and benefactors.
At the end of our Founders' Day Assembly, we unveiled a wonderful 150th birthday present which we received at the end of last term. It's by the anonymous Manchester artist Manxie, whose prints have appeared all over the city celebrating Manchester's heritage. The work that they have made for us draws together so many of the things we have talked about. You'll spot the peacock from Miss Burstall's tapestry and 11 ivy leaves representing the school's 11 headmistresses. There are references to Threshold, the sculpture over the main door to school, which celebrates the school's courage and resilience in the face of adversity after the Grangethorpe building was bombed in 1940. Look closely and you'll find the Manchester Bee. And there are the words of Christabel Pankhurst: "It is our duty to make this world a better place for women." We're thrilled to have this unique and wonderful work, and it too is now displayed on top reception for us all to enjoy. The lesson that we have learned from looking at these very special artworks is that it's now up to us to serve as an example for generations to come. Like those who fought for women's right to an education and for women's right to vote, we too have to try to make a difference and to have a positive impact in whatever we do.